10 years as of today. 10 years this album has been out in the world. It's a life-changing one, and I cannot wait to talk to you guys about it. What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the third studio album, The Black Parade by rock band My Chemical Romance. No one saw this one coming from these guys back in the day, but here we are 10 years later talking about it because it's such an important and timeless record. Exactly what the band set out to do. Ray Toro said that whenever they made the album. This is going to be one of those albums that you pass on for generations. You want other people to hear about it, and this is why My Chemical Romance is still talked about to this day. There's so much to get into and there's a lot of depth to their music. I love that this is a rock opera similar to Green Day's American Idiot. That's my favorite album of all time. The Black Parade, if you guys are not familiar, is my second favorite album. And yes, I did review this initially back in 2012. Like my American Idiot one, I'm not happy with it. That's why we're doing redemption reviews here. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this one a whole lot more. As far as the setup of this review goes, I'm going to be starting with me giving my personal feelings, an overview, my connection to the record, and then I'm going to be going track by track through The Black Parade and focusing less on the rock opera and storyline aspect. I'm going to be giving more of a general overview because I feel like these songs, even more so with this album, even compared to something like American Idiot, it's one of those ones that is much more personal. There's so many songs here that do relate to our protagonist, the patient, as we know him in The Black Parade. I feel like it's much more personal because he's reflecting on life, these relationships, these connections, and these haunting memories he has. And as a result, I feel like this is a very, very personal album. Gerard Way really got into character here, even going as far as to create an alter ego for the band, The Black Parade, and they all performed in costume up until The Black Parade is Dead, obviously, in Mexico. That concert that I rewatch over and over again is just so fun. I have a DVD copy of it, and it's an epic fucking performance. These guys were clearly inspired by Queen, some of the other greats on this record, and I loved seeing them bring out so much charisma. Gerard Way is a hell of a performer, and I'm so amazed just the fact that I got to see these guys live before they broke up. It was truly an experience, a night that I will never forget. The Black Parade came out when I was 14 years old, about a year after I really started falling truly madly in love with music. I got into American Idiot. That was a huge album for me, From Under the Cork Tree, Foiled by Blue October. There were a lot of albums at the time that were really just changing my perspective on things and making me want to listen to more stuff. Queens of the Stone Age with Lullabies to Paralyze. There were some really great albums coming out during that era. And then we get The Black Parade, just an atom bomb dropped out of nowhere. And I read up on it a little bit. I believe there was a review in the local newspaper, somebody talking about how it was a rock opera. And I had heard the term obviously before because of American Idiot, and I was really excited because I loved that one and I loved that it was all connected. It was all so new to me at the time. I had never listened to albums by The Who yet, at least, and I had never really reflected on too many rock opera albums. Not that I've listened to a ton at this point, but there's definitely some more under my belt. So The Black Parade was kind of game-changing for me and still is something that just really blows my mind, and I feel like it just took a lot of critics back by surprise as well. They were taking statements back and they were like, you know, maybe we judged these emo or goth guys too much and too harshly. They just put out one of the best fucking albums of the year and the decade, and for me, all time. The Black Parade is timeless. It's one of those things where they really went in and accomplished that goal of what they were talking about. This is going to be one of those albums that you hand down to your kids. You want to share it because it is so epic. There's so many details, so much performance, so much bravado in this album. You can feel every ounce of passion from every member here. Gerard Way's best vocal performances of all time come on this album. Ray Toro striking on that guitar. Mikey, Bob, everybody, Frank. It's just absolutely insane how they all come together here and make an album that sounds so fucking passionate, so detailed, and just at the same time, so many different styles. And it all blends together with classic elements of MCR, but really they completely reinvented themselves with this record, gave themselves a new identity, and lived under that for quite some time. So without further ado, let's get into our track by track, starting with The End. The End instantly caught my attention. It's got this kind of swooping, weird thing going to it. It's almost got like a snappy feel. You see that in the background of the tune. And then Gerard's vocals on this track really just come through as haunting. This guy is having a life life-changing experience because he's laying on his deathbed about to pass into the next world. And I feel like this is one where I really have to discuss the patient here because it really pertains to him more than really any other track. It's one that it's obviously set up to mainly introduce this character here. What is going on? What is this guy up to? And at this point, he's crossing over. He's just saying, another contusion, my funeral, everything else. He's seeing everything. He's passing on. Maybe he's already died and has seen the light. And then boom, it hits him with track number 2. Dead is next on our track listing here, and this song is one of my favorites of all time. The rip-roaring guitars on this thing immediately tear in, and it sounds so fantastic. I love how Toro comes to life on this tune, really carries it along with Gerard's manic vocals, especially with the la 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 that just comes in. If life ain't just a joke, then why are we laughing? There's so many great lines all throughout this album, and I love how the guitar on this it was an instant change. Whenever you listen to this album and you expected something like Bullets or else Three Cheers, listening for My Chemical Romance, it's just like they threw it all out the window and they were like, we're reinventing the wheel for ourselves here, and we're gonna pull off something completely new and do it in the best and most refreshing way possible. Dead is a phenomenal track. This Is How I Disappear is a song that really highlighted the drumming from Bob Breyer. It starts off with that percussion and then that driving dark guitar. This is such an eerie tune, and I love how this and the Sharpest Lives come back to back, two of my absolute favorites. And I could say that really for any of the tracks on here. I love these songs to death. Such a good batch of tracks, so it's hard to highlight one over the other, but seriously, tracks 3 and 4 coming back to back like that, This Is How I Disappear and the Sharpest Lives, the best move they could have made. This Is How I Disappear has one of those vocal performances from Gerard that feels a little bit restrained in places, but it goes with that creepy feeling. And then we move on to the Sharpest Lives, and we just see that opening stuttered guitar, and we finally break in. Well, it rains and it pours when you're out on your own, and it just comes as like a manic, just comes in the middle of the night drunk and is laying down on the couch. I can crash here. It's just a stream of consciousness, and I love how dark that is. Then there's a line that's really stood out to me over time. Grab the dagger and lather the blood on your hands, Romeo. It's just like so twisted, and you see this individual's sick mind, all of the things that he's been through over the years. And once again, like I'm talking about with the instrumentation, it fits perfectly coming out of This Is How I Disappear. That one had more guitar-centric paces, I feel like, and with the Sharpest Lives, it's more of an atmosphere. Not that it's a weak and light track by any means, but it's very brooding, and you almost get a little bit haunted and maybe tingly, spine-tingly stuff going on whenever you're listening to it, just because it's one of those tracks where you're just like getting in the mind of this character, and you're like, what was this guy in life? What exactly did he do? I don't feel like we need to spend a ton of time talking about Welcome to the Black Parade. It's the band's biggest hit, clocking in at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 back in 2006. This was a massive song for the decade of the 2000s. Everyone seems to know this one. When I was a young boy. And then the pianos chiming in, starting it off, and everyone got teased big time with the whole MCRX thing. They were like, what are these guys doing? Whenever they had those piano keys, teasing it all over their website, their YouTube, their social media in general, and then it just turned out to be the 10th anniversary. I think this is a very smart tune. This is one that I skip over sometimes whenever I listen to the album just because I've heard it so many times, but I'll never truly get sick of it just because it's so epic. It's a grandiose, over-the-top track that just sees howling guitars, pianos, a manic vocal performance from a great performer, Gerard Way, and such talented instrumentalist. How could I hate anything about this song no matter how many times I hear it? Some bands would have a huge problem ruining the flow of an album after an epic song like Welcome to the Black Parade, but My Chem pull it off flawlessly and seamlessly with I Don't Love You. A total change of pace, totally different tone on the guitars, but they sound perfect. It's seriously an eargasm for me, especially just how rewarding and rich this track is lyrically. This is a song that's all about distancing yourself and putting yourself away from a lover, and I feel like it could also be applied to maybe a friendship, just somebody toxic in your life, or just something that has come to an end naturally. It doesn't have to be a toxic relationship. It could be something that was really good for you, but it's just like, hey, I have to walk away, but I don't love you like I did yesterday. The chorus on this thing and just the vocals in general are so yearning and desperate, and it's just like they're trapped. You truly feel what he does here, or maybe what the patient feels, and they feel like they were suffocated by this memory of this relationship and this turning point in their life, and they finally got the courage. You know, like, would you have the courage? Maybe he was in the situation where it was turned on him. He knows that this girl doesn't love him anymore, so would you please just have the guts to say, I don't love you like I did yesterday. This song is totally unlike anything My Chem have ever done. It's just got a totally different pace to the guitars. I love the drumming on this track. It's very steady and straightforward, and it kind of pushes a different vibe for the overall feeling of this song. If you're looking for a crazy theatrical performance, then look no further than House of Wolves, because this is the voice of a madman. You better run like the devil, because they're never gonna leave you alone. And I love just how crazy he gets here. It's showing off his vocal range, his capabilities, and just the shouts on this track, and almost like the little howls, and the guitars are just like screeching in places that it just sounds so overwhelming. It's like there's so much to appreciate and dive into that you just have to listen to it over and over again. If you'd like to see me go more in detail on the song Cancer, I'd recommend watching my video that I did 7 songs about death over on Beyond ARTV. I talked about how important this one is to me, and I will kind of briefly highlight what my connection to this one is. Cancer is a track that I really found special to me just because my mom had cancer, and I remember finding out just how I felt and how comforting this song was in a way, because I didn't know what was going to happen to her. And this patient seems pretty aware of what's happening to them in the song. You know, like, help her gather all my things, bury me in all of my favorite colors. And he knows that this is it. He's had all of these memories up to this point after the end, but now he's realizing this memory of his last days on this earth. And he's just like, get everything together. I know that I'm gonna be gone. You know, like, I have nothing left to offer this life. Look at me. My lips are chapped and faded. Just don't even look. Don't even look. I can't even take it. This song is so haunting. It truly makes me tear up sometimes whenever I listen to it. Even before I knew that my mom had cancer, this song was out 5 or 6 years before that. And fortunately, my mom is completely cleared now. This song is still just a reminder of that time. It's a very special one for me. And I love that it just has that genuine vocal performance. It's so raw from Gerard Way. Just that and the piano adding in a little bit of extra as it goes forward, but it's so stripped back. That is why it works so well, and it's so emotional. Theater mode kicks in once again with Mama, and another very twisted performance from Mr. Way and the rest of the Black Parade. These guys come in with a song that starts off very small, and then, of course, we just get this out of left field vocal performance, and I feel like some of the moments here, it's like we're watching a play, or a musical, I should say, unfold before our eyes. And whenever you can take that concept, apply it to a record, it's just like, can this please be a full-blown play? And can we get Gerard Way, can we somehow convince him to play the role? Because I would love to see songs like Mom Alive. Just seriously, the instrumentation is all over the place. There's so many changes in pace, especially once he starts having a meltdown. The guitars just are striking back and forth, Mama, and it's going with the pace of the song so perfectly, and then it breaks back down to, I just want to call you my sweetheart, but the shit that I've done from please hear it for yourself. I can't do an impersonation. I'm dreaming that I was on Broadway performing this, even though I have no acting skills. Sleep was initially a song that I didn't like as much. In fact, for the first few years, for some reason, I just didn't like it at first, and then I just started skipping it, and it became a habit. I would listen to it occasionally, but for some reason, I don't know, I didn't gravitate towards this one. But now, I can easily and safely say that this is one of the best songs on the Black Parade. I believe it was in my top 10 My Chemical Romance tracks, because this is one that sees us focusing on this guy. It starts off with the samples. I was having these terrors, and you see him, it's like he's talking to a psychiatrist or something like that, and it slowly warps in this guitar, and then it just gets like an overload. It throws it in our face with this hard guitar. I always tend to picture in my head just this guy walking through the streets. He's kind of at a low point in his life, maybe holding an alcoholic beverage in his hand, just kind of scruffy, let himself go a little bit, and he's very bitter and sarcastic, saying all these things like 3 cheers for tyranny, and he's just kind of turning on the world because he doesn't know what to do with himself or all of these feelings and thoughts that he's having, because there ain't no way that he's sorry for what he's done. And he's very open about that. It's a very honest song. And in a way, it's really, I think, a turning point in the album, because we see more of this character than we really ever have up to this point. The chorus is a monster, such an impact, especially that guitar-led outro on the thing after that final chorus. It just builds up more and more and then finally dies off and moves in to teenagers. My parents will probably attest to the fact that this song is true. Teenagers are scary as shit, and I was one of the good ones. Hell, I went to a Christian school. I thought I was being bad because I listened to My Chemical Romance. I actually got my iPod confiscated one time because I was listening to My Chem. I was listening to the Black Parade. Me and my friend were using one of those headphone splitters. It actually wasn't even an iPod. It was an MP3 player. She had the nerve to come up to me in study hall whenever there was no one else in there. It was just me and my friend. Everybody else was a part of the school play. We had decided to sit it out. We were just listening to the Black Parade. She took that, confiscated it, and never gave it back. That was $200 down the drain, and I will never let that go. I'm blown away by track 12, Disenchanted. Genuinely my favorite song on the album right now. Ask me in a month, that might change. It changes from year to year, month to month, because there's so many good ones here. But Disenchanted, I love the fact that it's more just kind of raw, down to earth, almost more of like a reflection. And, you know, he's kind of talking about how he saw his life play out before him. It was the roar of the crowd that gave me heartache to sing. And then he also kind of tears it back down, because it's just like, we had these great moments and I had these accomplishments, but at the same time, I started seeing the fakeness and how disingenuous people were. The musicality of this one is unparalleled, even by its peers on this album. It really stands out because it opens up with that acoustic guitar, just a gentle little melody there before he says it was the roar of the crowd, and obviously the guitars come to life as well, which I thought was a very, very nice move. A nice little touch from My Chem, and this was unfortunately one that I overlooked early on. I don't know why, but I didn't come back to this track as much as the others, but we see once again, just like with Sleep, this has quickly been overturned and become a top favorite for me. Disenchanted works on every level, especially as it drives home that chorus, because you never learned a goddamn thing. You're just a sad song. I love the lyrical content on this one. In fact, the whole album is just so well written. How could you hate it? I understand why this has such good critical reviews. Even people who didn't like the band before, it's really hard to deny. Famous Last Words was my favorite song for like months on end whenever it came out. I heard it on the radio. I ripped it to a cassette tape whenever it came on. I was sitting there listening for it to come back on again. Got it, got the recording, listened to it over and over again. Rewind the tape, play it again. This song is unlike anything that I have ever heard. It's so powerful. It's so just grandiose. I know I've used that term to describe other moments on this record, but it's so true. It's one of those things that is like, it's like the pinnacle of the rock opera right here. Famous Last Words shows off not only the restraint of the band, but also the fury and also the unleashing of Gerard Way as a performer and a vocalist. It's a statement. It's an anthem. I am not afraid to keep on living. I am not afraid to walk this world alone. And I think that I also connected to this one for similar reasons as Boulevard of Broken Dreams. This is why Famous Last Words was a favorite song of mine as well. It helped keep my head up in dark times. I like that this track goes on and has a long outro. Normally I would find that maybe a little bit tedious or a bit repetitive, but for this one, the way they do it, I think of the outro like for Welcome Home by Coheed and Cambria. It's one that does go on for a while, but there's something to it. And it finally, on Famous Last Words, breaks down to just the vocals. I am not afraid to keep on living, you know? I am not afraid to walk this world alone. I love the backing vocals on this one, how it just breaks down to that, and finally, nothing you can say could stop me from going home. And then it just stop. Oh, or so we think. Then we have the hidden track, Blood, which goes on for a little bit. I think it's about a minute and a half before we actually get to Blood. And then we just kind of, once again, it has the old school vibe of the end, but maybe even older. And I like how it kind of has that upbeat feel to it. And you're like, oh, this is going to be a nice little tune. What could this be? Well, it's not exactly great at all, because the patient is talking about how awful he is, because I'm such an awful fuck. All in all, this album is a huge classic. Obviously, I love the hell out of this thing. It's my second favorite album of all time. I highly recommend you guys go re-listen to it if it's been a while since you've been into it. If you still love it, keep listening to it. You're doing the right thing. And if you've never heard it, please, I beg you, check this thing out. If you ever take any of my recommendations for music, maybe you're younger, you've never even heard of this album, please do yourself a favor, use that link in the description and listen to this album for yourself. For me personally, this is a masterpiece, a classic, one that is going to be timeless, one that I have not stopped listening to since 2006, and that is so rare for an album these days. Just something that you want to come back to over and over again, whether it be just every few months. For me, that speaks volumes about the quality of this album. So obviously you guys know that I'm throwing out a massive 5 out of 5, glowing, just the biggest 5 out of 5 you can imagine, for The Black Parade, the third album by My Chemical Romance. I hope you guys enjoyed my Redemption review. Let me know your thoughts on The Black Parade in the comments section down below. Be sure to wish it a happy 10th anniversary. That's why I did this review in the first place. A lot of you guys said that you wanted to see this, so I hope you enjoyed it after seeing my Living with Ghosts review. If you missed that, you can check it out. It's linked in that little annotation there, or you can check out my top 10 My Chemical Romance songs that I did earlier this year. Thanks for watching the video, smashing the like button, subscribing to the channel, because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. Thank you for 45,000. That is absolutely mind-blowing. Other than that, I will see you guys very, very soon right here on ARTV.